Hey everyone, it's Matt here, and as you can tell from the spooky lighting and what we're talking about today, it is the spooky month. And I'm going to be moving this around, I'm moving my lighting around throughout the video. Oh, spooky. So I don't manage to look directly at it. So today we are talking about the first two episodes of Kamen Rider Kiva. Why the first two episodes? Because those two episodes are legally available through Toei's Tokusatsu World official YouTube channel. I think I got that right. Maybe mixed up one or two words there. There's a lot of words in their YouTube channel. But either way, that's why we're talking about the first two episodes. If you want more of an in-depth dive into the series, we'll probably do an episode of Toku Trivia sometime this month, trying to finish a rewatch of it, and it's definitely a lot of fun. But talking about these first two episodes in particular, if you're not familiar with Kamen Rider, or at least with Kamen Rider Kiva in particular, I'll give a little bit of information about both before we just kind of jump into a review, but do note that there will be spoilers for both episodes in this review. So, when it comes to Kamen Rider overall, definitely in the Showa era, it was usually a one, maybe at times two rider kind of thing. Yes, there would be crossovers, but they wouldn't necessarily be the norm, but they would definitely be a thing that would happen every now and again, not just in a special, but also throughout the shows themselves. Now, when you look at the Heisei era, crossovers usually stopped unless they were hyper battle videos, and usually there would be one, two, well, usually. There would be 1 to 3 riders per season unless for some reason there was a rider war or something like that. And of course things got a little bit different as the Heisei era went on. But this show came out in 2008, so I'm talking about it from the perspective of 2008 Kamen Rider. Funnily enough, I actually got on the Kamen Rider just a year after that with Decade, and you can say, sorry, it's okay, I won't judge you for it, but I did enjoy Decade. But it was very interesting because in the first episode there's a cameo from Wataru, the main Kamen Rider in this show. And when it comes to him, he's arguably a bit different than other Kamen Riders, both Showa and even Heisei for the time, because while he does have a sense of justice and he does want to help people, he is very much, because he is a shut-in, he very much doesn't have this drive to get out there and fight until he needs to fight. It's a very interesting shift that I don't really think within these first two episodes they covered well, because they're trying to introduce so much in these two episodes because of the fact that, and here's where the spoilers come into play, they both jump between 2008 and 1986. And what's interesting is the villains of this series, very spooky, very in tune with the season, are vampires known as Fangires. And of course, very Tokusatsu-esque in their villains' designs and whatnot, but they are still meant to be derived from vampires. And when you look at the fact that they jump between 1986, which is very interesting to see because sometimes the Fangires won't be defeated there because they'll end up being defeated by Wataru in 2008, but it definitely does leave a little bit to desire because of the fact that, you know, you see a Fangire leave 22 years prior and you think, oh, darn, it sucks that they weren't killed. But depending on the situation, they didn't just go into hiding or something like that. They just kept on killing for 22 years. And it's very strange because while we don't know exactly what's going on, if there's any other kind of riders or motivations as of yet from other characters, we do know that there are characters in 1986 that have direct descendants in 2008. Two of them in particular, by the way, one of them being Otoya Kurenai. Now, I mentioned Wataru before being our main Kamen Rider Kiva, but what I didn't mention is that his last name is also Kurenai, which means that, yes, his dad is, well, he's a lot of things, but we'll talk about that in a second. But his dad is in 1986, not a Kamen Rider, and in 2008, his son becomes a Kamen Rider, but we don't see the dad in 2008, nor do we see Megumi either, who is a person who is fighting against the Fangire with some like human-made weapons, which is definitely in the scope of what Kamen Rider had become in the Heisei era, kind of adapting little stuff here and there from the Metal Heroes series in the 80s that had since been gone for a while by the time Kamen Rider came back. So definitely it looks as if she's primed to be a Kamen Rider. Looks can be deceiving, but I don't want to spoil anything future past episode 1 and 2. These definitely are a companion piece, by the way. I do enjoy that you can watch both episodes and really get a full, complete story from it. Sadly, with some of the episodes that are on Toei's YouTube channel, at least this US YouTube channel, you can see that, sadly, there are some, like Agito, for instance, where it's actually meant to be kind of a 3-parter, maybe even a 4-parter, and they just end up having a really good cliffhanger that will not be resolved until it eventually does appear in the US, hopefully through Shout Factory. There's been some other attempts at legally subbing it, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So hopefully they will appear on DVD or Blu-ray, obviously, but and through streaming, through Shout Factory or through some other company. So when it comes to Kiva in particular, though, again, thankfully these 2 episodes really kind of close themselves up. We see Wataru transforming. We see him having this sense of duty, even in the face of being believing also, which is very odd, that he is allergic to the world, and that's very strange and a unique take that makes sense, you know, being a vampire that you can't go out during the daytime, but he does go out just with a mask, which immediately makes me in 2022 go, good for you, taking care of your fellow citizens. Awesome, Wataru, and yourself as well. Yeah. But then the mask is removed and it's just kind of revealed that he's mostly, more so a germaphobe. And it's weird because he lives in this giant mansion, but we don't know too much about the logistics of that as of yet. He is clearly, seemingly just from the way he talks about his family, or doesn't in some cases, an orphan, which is just normal for Kamen Rider, honestly. That part is just like, yeah, you got your main Kamen Rider, he's an orphan, so be it. You know, raised by some other family member or some other person helping him out. Yep, that makes sense. But what I do enjoy definitely, even though again the Fangire stuff, it leaves a bit to be desired when it comes to both the settings, you know, 1986 to 2008. I really do enjoy the transitions, and I enjoy how much certain settings and certain locations change, and they even bring back actors with different hairstyles and stuff to denote the changing of time. There's a dog in one of the cafes, the main cafe, the main hub that isn't the hero's home, to have characters meet and talk to each other. And it's fascinating to see the transitions where the dog actually ends up getting older. It's really cute, and it's definitely something that I do enjoy. But what I don't enjoy with jumping between both is how little time both can get in the span of a 23-minute episode. And it's definitely something that, as of right now, I do think is hurting the series a bit. Also, when you look at Wataru's dad, definitely affecting the series, as he is essentially, look, there's nothing wrong with being interested in anyone of any gender in a way that is loud, okay? But in his case, though, they're trying to go with a lovable goofball who can't take no for an answer. But the problem with the lovable goofball is that when you add in can't take no for an answer, you're not really having a good time. And it's very hard for me to connect with this character and laugh with this character when, more often than not, he's kind of just forced his way into a situation. And then, speaking of the goofball part, he is extremely full of himself and stupid. And again, if he wasn't necessarily pushing himself onto other characters, then maybe it would just be like, you know, he's just silly. He's just comic relief. But he does seem to be primed to actually have a bigger role in the future, and because he's the main character's dad, of course there's going to be a lot going on there, because when you look at Wataru, he seems to be half Fangire, or at least he transforms in a way with the help of Kibat, who bites his hand, who helps transform him, so he doesn't kill him, seemingly, so he seems to be part Fangire in some way or another, or related to them in some form or fashion. So does that mean that Otoya ends up hooking up with a Fangire? Because if so, nice. But at the same time, though, again, it's just, you can tell that we're going to see this character for a long time. He's not going to die anytime soon. Wataru has to, at the very least, be conceived before he dies. So it's a character that you hope that and I hope that they do tone down. It's been a while since I've seen it. I finished it a while back. So again, trying to get through that rewatch. So when it comes to this character, it's one that you hope that they tone down throughout the series, because personally, it's the kind of humor that I'm just not exactly interested in, and it doesn't really endear the character to me personally. I will say, though, that I do like the supporting cast. There's a fair amount of different characters, both, again, like I said, in 86 and 2008, and some of them we have not seen in both yet. And I have to say, some of the characters definitely get better as the show goes on, but even just with these first 2 episodes, it's really cool that just seeing certain people's descendants and seeing, you know, how they're being referenced by the Fangires and other characters and where that might potentially go. Just like with Agito, there does seem to be, and other Kamen Riders as well, it wasn't unique to Agito, there does seem to be a human group that is trying to fight the Fangires. The problem is that while they seem to be established in '08, they weren't in '86. So while it's nice to see some of the growing pains of this group, it's definitely going to seem a little weird when we know that they're not, the fruits of their labor will be 22 years in the future. So watching it in the past is a cool concept. By the way, this show, before I get into characters, more so was written by both Toshiki Inoue, which, yeah, if you're not familiar with Inoue's work, as I'm talking about him right now, his stuff is on the screen. So you've probably seen some of his work before if you're not new to Kamen Rider. And also Shoji Yonemura, who's also very familiar. And I don't recall any of his work off the top of my head, but I'm sure as I show his work on screen right now as I'm talking about it, his work will be familiar to you. Also, I have to say the action scenes were really cool, just having Kiva fight and the way that he fights, very primal, very different than Wataru, kind of like a manifestation of some of his angst and stuff like that, because the show is very angsty. If you don't want any teenage angst, sorry, this is the wrong place. It's very angsty with not all of its characters, to be fair. I mean, to be fair, Wataru is also very reserved, so I don't know if that you see that angst constantly, but like in the way the opening is, by the way, beautiful opening, Love Break the Chain, and just the way that he fights, it's a lot different than the character himself, the way he presents himself in his day-to-day life, which is very interesting to see, honestly. Now, moving back to characters again, I mixed them up just a little bit because when it comes to these two episodes, a lot of characters are going to be thrown at you, so definitely be prepared for that. So when it comes to Megumi, she's actually the daughter of Yuri, who is in 1986 with Otoya, Wataru's dad. So definitely get out one of those Kamen Rider double notes, like those boards of just everyone's faces and names and whatnot, because you're going to definitely need them. The show did not provide them. So when it comes to Yuri, again, she's the mom and also a Fangire hunter, and when it comes to the weapons that were used, they definitely give me some Castlevania vibes, so that's actually pretty cool, just seeing that giant whip being used. And I also really do enjoy just having humans step up against monsters when it happens in Kamen Rider. It can happen in Sentai as well, but I love seeing it in Kamen Rider because it really shows the human struggle and the human experience in trying to stand up with literal gods in some cases. So it's really cool to see it. I'm happy to see it here. This is definitely a show that is underrated, I feel. In some respects, I totally get why it's rated the way that it is, but in some, I do think that at least with these two episodes, it is very promising, and I do recommend that you see it. Also, let me move the camera up here. You can see me with better lighting a little bit. But either way, I do recommend at least these first two episodes, and hopefully one day it does get picked up by some streaming company, and on DVD or Blu-ray, I would definitely enjoy seeing it. When it comes to the film, just a little bit, no spoilers, nothing like that, the film is not canon. So if you just want to watch the show itself, one day it does get picked up and you're watching this in the future, then know that yes, you can just watch the entire series without watching the film, and you're just fine. So I am definitely a fan of that. And again, like I mentioned before with the action, I do enjoy it both from the Kamen Riders and from the humans, although if you're not a big fan of CG, there is a bit of it throughout the second episode, so definitely get used to that, because this is definitely when Kamen Rider started leaning on CG a bit more here and there. And also with the first episodes of Kamen Rider shows, and also Sentai as well, they get so much budget for that first episode that they just need to blow the entire budget, because if they don't, then it looks like they don't need it for next year, so then production thinks, you don't need that budget, and then next year's is cut, so they want to use the whole thing to show that they need it. So you definitely saw some CG, you definitely saw some very over-the-top Kamen Rider kicks that frankly I really did enjoy, but just they were over the top, I would argue, even for Kamen Rider, which is saying a lot. But at least in the first two episodes they're over the top. If this was like an episode 50 thing, that would be fine, but in the first two episodes, kind of a lot. But still, I enjoyed it nonetheless. Hopefully you did if you're watching this review, if you haven't seen it. And again, I do recommend the entire show. There's ups and downs, there's peaks and valleys, but I still do think that it is a fun one to check out, especially during the spooky month. So, thank you all so much for watching. Love you all. Before you go, though, please remember to like and subscribe if you like the video, and if you don't, you can still like and subscribe either way. So love you all, take care, and tune in next time for something spooky, because it still is the Halloween season. Alright, so love you all, take care, and tune in next time. So, see ya.